Welcome to Inspired Cooking with Lana. I am a life coach who loves to cook, so I thought I would combine the two and bring you good food and food for thought. So let's get started. So tonight I'm really excited. Some friends of mine invited me over to a wine tasting tonight, and so I love wine, so really excited about that. But also I was thinking, what could I bring that would be, warm, hearty, would go good with wine, different wine pairings. And so what I'm going to make tonight is an onion bacon pie. So if you like caramelized onions, this pie is going to be sweet and savory. And if you like caramelized onions, stay with me here. And who doesn't like bacon, right? So the recipe calls for, I'm going to say 3 to 3.5 medium to large size onions, but I'm going to double it because if I'm going to go to the trouble to caramelize onions, I would like to have another batch so that I can make some things later like French onion soup, or I could have caramelized onions for my burgers. So I'm going to make a double batch. So I have a lot of onion here, so let's get started. So I've just peeled, and these are sweet onions, so it is going to be sweet, but I'm also going to add another ingredient to the onions after they get caramelized. And since we have a lot of onions here to slice, I have a veggie bullet. I would recommend a food processor, just anything to help speed up the process. You can certainly slice all of these onions by hand, but if you have an extra tool, why not use it? So here we go. So I have a nice big bowl of sliced onions, and it was super fast. So now we are going to start to caramelize the onions. So I'm going to add a little olive oil and with a combo of a little butter. So I just like the flavor of butter, but the heat point of olive oil is good too. So I'm just going to add maybe a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil to the pan. We're going to let that get hot, and once that gets hot, we are going to add the onions. So I know in some of my other episodes I have shared with you just my thoughts on the power of the mind, and that we actually do have control over our thoughts, even though sometimes it seems like we don't. It seems like our mind has control over us, but the truth is the more we exercise our mind and in paying attention to our thoughts, we can really have more control over what it is that we think. And I've also shared in an episode that I was reading this book called E Squared. And one of the exercises in E Squared, I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys because, I know that, when it comes to health and weight loss and, low carb is the crave right now as well. So one of the exercises in the book is to actually, maybe even put your hands over your food, but send your food love, send your food good intentions, and healing properties, whatever it is that you want your body to experience from this food. And what she specifically says in this experiment is to not change your diet. So if you want to eat macaroni and cheese, eat macaroni and cheese. She's saying just keep the diet the same as you always do. It's a 3-day experiment, but the intention is to send your food, the properties of health, well-being, whatever it is that you want to consume, and just eat normally and see what happens. So that's an experiment that, based on the book E Squared, it's an experiment that I'm currently trying as well. So I wanted to share that with you. So now that the pan is hot, I am going to add this huge amount of onions. So the key in caramelizing onions is you want it to go fairly low heat. So this pan isn't quite heating up, just this particular hot plate doesn't get super hot. So I'm actually going to move this over to my stove to keep the onions going and to get them caramelized. But the key is to not do a super high heat. So we're going to go a medium to a medium-low heat for about 30 minutes, but we're also going to add another ingredient in here once these get reduced down about halfway, so stay with me. And also really important, we want to make sure we generously salt our onions so that they are able to sweat out all the moisture. So I'm going to generously give this some salt. So while my onions are on the stove simmering on medium heat, and for I'm going to say at least 30 minutes, I'm going to get started with the bacon. So we are going to use a thick cut bacon, and I'm going to put them in the air fryer. My favorite way to crisp up bacon is in the air fryer. However, if you do not have an air fryer, just for easy cleanup and everything else, I recommend putting your bacon in the oven on a rack that drains. So you want to get some air underneath it as well. So you could put this in the oven with a rack underneath it. But I'm going to use the air fryer. So we're going to crisp up six thick slices of bacon. So I have my onions. They have reduced down quite a bit. They've been cooking for about 20 to 25 minutes. So they've reduced down. This was pretty full when we started. But I want to show you that I want to add one more ingredient here, and that is balsamic vinegar. So you can buy reduced balsamic vinegar at the store, but I'm going to reduce the balsamic by just putting probably 1/4 of a cup in with the onion, and that's just going to, once this simmers for about 10 more minutes, this balsamic is going to reduce. It's going to give it great flavor and a little extra sweet. So about 1/4 of a cup of balsamic, and we're going to reduce for about 10 more minutes. So my onions are complete, and so do you remember how many onions they were? So you really want them reduced down. Now granted, I did a double batch, so this is half the batch of onions with a generous amount of salt as well as some balsamic vinegar. So the balsamic just, I think, added some extra flavor, added some extra sweetness, and then you want to let that cool. So now they're nice and caramelized and tender, and they are cooling down nicely. So now to put it all together. So as I have mentioned in previous episodes, I am not a baker, so I have bought a pie crust from Pillsbury. So that's the pie crust that we're going to be filling tonight. So we're going to start with 3 eggs. And to that we're going to add 1 cup of sour cream. And then we're going to mix this all together. So when it comes to food, I think a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with food. Or they have a lot of guilt around, eating certain things or certain times of the day. So I think this is going to be a fun experiment for me. I know that, I have my own, stuff around food, but I think it's going to be a fun experiment. Okay, so now that we have the eggs, 3 eggs and a cup of sour cream blended, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of flour. And to this, I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. Now we did generously salt the onions, so 1 teaspoon should be plenty of salt. And I'm going to do about 1/2 teaspoon of caraway seeds. Maybe a little more than that. Yeah, why not? We'll do a teaspoon of caraway seeds. And to this, we're going to add the onion mixture. And the bacon. So we have, I think I might have mentioned 6, but I'm going to go with 5. So I'm doing 5 thick cut slices of bacon that are cooked perfectly in the air fryer. And again, if you don't have an air fryer, you could use your oven. So we're just going to crumble these up, put these in, and give it a stir. Okay, now that everything is completely blended, I'm going to pour this into my pie plate. And I have the oven preheated at 350. I think it's going to be delicious. I think it's going to go great with wine. And I'm just going to give this one final topping. So that looks great. I'm going to rinse my hands. And now I'm just going to top it with a little Swiss Gruyere cheese on the top. And we're going to put it into the oven at 350 for approximately 50 minutes. So I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. My onion bacon pie is done. It smells amazing. And I can't wait to share this with my friends tonight at the wine tasting. And so just going back to what I was talking about with setting your intention, I'm just going to set the intention that this meal tonight bring health and nutrition and joy to my friends at the wine tasting. So health, nutrition, and joy. And if you like this episode, what you see tonight, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and check out my website at inspiredcookingwithlana.com. Thanks for watching.